This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free, and it goes to Gibbs wide.
First time we've seen them attack them, and there's Brandon! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robinson do. Tyler one, he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic!
Here's Bob Williams. He's through here. And in the end, Forrest will say it doesn't matter how you play as long as you win it.
Hello and welcome to this issue of Red Side Le Trent. I'm your host Christian Brown, and we have a full house here with Adam Wicklow, Reiss Lane, and Lee Clark. And we come to you with good news in that Nottingham Forest are in the hat for the fifth round of the FA Cup, although that is something of a technicality because we drew 0-0 last night at Ashton Gate in the equivalent of the Egypt game from the Mike Bassett film, for those who have seen that, in a truly dire 0-0 draw that would cure anyone's insomnia if you're watching that game. But alas, we will go through it, and Lee, we'll start with you. Obviously, for this, we won't go into too much detail because there isn't that much to say. But we'll look at the team, and so we'll start with that. It was a completely unchanged team from Brentford's, including Matt Turner in goal still, which was a bit of a surprise for me personally. What do you think? Do you think that means that Turner's now his cup goalkeeper? Do you think that, or do you just think that he's lost all faith in Lacademius completely?
Oh, I don't know. It's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it, with goalkeepers? No, I don't think he is the cup goalkeeper. I think he's the number one goalkeeper. I think I just don't think he really fancies Lacademius at all. I think a lot of them are running on fumes a bit now, aren't they? It's kind of, we're at the stage where the team picks itself almost. In terms of the keepers, I don't know what the answer is. The answer is we need a new one. But like I've said before on this podcast, I'd be surprised if we justified a big spend on another goalkeeper when we've got 20 million's worth of keepers that, let's face it, aren't particularly ripping up any trees. I'm sure we'll get onto that, but the reports are suggesting that we are looking at a goalkeeper now, but the two that we've been linked with are going to be either loans or pretty cheap ones. So I think Nuno's finally realised that. I think he probably came in thinking he could get a tune out of one of them, but I think after 5 or 6 games or whatever it is now, he's kind of thought, we're going to be in big trouble if we don't get one. So I don't think he knows what to do. I think he just stuck with Turner because he wants to go as strong as possible and try and get the game won. And I think he probably views out of the two of them, Turner as number one.
Yeah, it's quite concerning when that. I saw someone on Twitter. It was quite funny. Just like not watching, just seeing who's in goal, have a better evening instead. They probably made the right decision, all things considered. But Reiss, you actually made the venture down to Ashton Gate to the place of Lyle Taylor's heroic scenes 2 seasons ago. Unfortunately, you didn't get quite those heroic scenes, but you could have done another day. I mean, it seemed very much a battle of the side netting for both teams. Obviously, Conway had a great chance for Bristol City when he was played in, but Zillow hit the side netting, and it seemed like the crowd thought it was in. Then obviously Hudson-Odoi hit the side netting. It seemed like the crowd thought that was in. From your angle in the grounds, for both of those, what did you think? Did it genuinely look like it had gone in for both occasions? I mean, the Hudson-Odoi one especially, I think he probably should hit the target, really.
Not for me, because I had a good view on both, so I could clearly see they'd hit the side netting. They also had one, didn't they, at the far end, which hit the side netting.
Right.
They also had a really good chance in the first half, which I think was the one you mentioned for Conway, where they'd put it across and he ghosted in on mark and put it wide. He probably should have scored, really. I'd probably say, well, for them, definitely that was the best chance of the match. Just to touch on the keepers, has Lacademius played for Benfica this season at all? Or
no, I don't think so. I mean, I'm not too sure. I have to check, but I don't think so.
Well, I am a betting man, and I think he's done at Forest. I think he'll be gone before the end of the window because I agree with Lee. I think Turner's the number one. He can't even get in the cup side now, and if we're looking to bring in another goalkeeper, I can't see him sat being third choice. I think it wouldn't surprise me if he moved out on loan somewhere. Him.
He has been this season.
Oh, has he? Well, that's that
Yeah.
then. So he'll be
So, yeah.
staying. He'll be staying
played-
then.
He's
So
played,
that's that.
in one game. He played
Just
in a,
to jump in on that though, I would find that. I mean, I know we need one, but I would find the decision to get another goalkeeper even more baffling then, because we're talking about the situation we're in with profit and sustainability. We're going to be laundering 3 goalkeepers for 6 months. That's just, I don't know. That just looks like you're taking the proverbial, doesn't it? With it, you're just going to stockpile a keeper like Lacademos as third choice,
we'll
not
come
even
on.
getting in the squad.
Yeah,
Definitely come on to that because
and then you'd
we're
also
looking
have Hennessy out of the squad as well.
Yeah, we're looking at signing basically 6 keepers in 2 years, basically. It's appalling, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, you have to be a bit, obviously with Henderson, he was brought in once, and I think if Henderson would have stayed fit, he'd still be at the club. I pretty much have no doubt about that. It's just a shame he kind of got injured. Everybody goes back to Samba. I think we'd all like to know deep down what kind of happened there. Because I still find it odd that having just been promoted to the Premier League, it's want to go back to France. I just can't get that round my head. I think with the rumours coming out that we was after Pope and then we was willing to pay 100 grand a week for Henderson, I think that's probably upset him, to be honest. And he's probably said, "Well, I'm not having this," and obviously gone back to France. Then I think that might have probably solved his issues, wouldn't it? But hindsight's a wonderful thing. But yeah, going back to the game, I mean it was one of them games where the scoreline was bang on the money. No one deserved to win the game. They didn't even have a shot on target. I expected a tough game, and there was periods when they knocked the ball around okay-ish. But I even expected more from them. To be honest, I thought they were really poor. I mean, it was pretty much sold out. The atmosphere wasn't the best to say. They're in the Championship, we're Premier League, and I thought they'd kind of get behind them a little bit more and push them on. But it was just, if someone's looking for a case to scrap the FA Cup, that's the game they'd probably put forward. To be honest, is probably how best I'd describe it. But the positive is, Christian, there's 2 positives for me. One is we're in the hat for the next round, which is always nice to see. We always love a cup draw. And 2, we kept a clean sheet, which will be good for Turner, because he actually, for the first time last night watching him, he actually looked okay with his feet.
Jesus, how bad were they then? But no,
Well,
I mean,
pressed at the start, and then they decided kind of not to do that, which surprised me, to be honest, because you clearly see that he's got issues with his feet. So I was expecting a bit more of a press, but I don't know whether that was because he was worried about we was Premier League and we'd basically just pass it round the press. But
maybe who knows?
Not doing that, but then the game just really fizzled out. Really,
Yeah, it wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, it was for those who are yearning for the Championship, I'm sure it brought back warm and fuzzy memories of all the games that we actively wanted to get away from for 23 years.
It was just another indication of just don't get me back in that league, please.
Exactly. Yeah, literally. Like it's not going to be fun by any stretch. But anyway, Adam, I mean, we did have a chance right at the end, actually, in bizarre fashion. We had a free kick right in the edge of the box, which came to nothing. I mean, excuse me, like Reiss said, there was no shots on target from the home side. We had 2. So one of them was a header that would sort of just loop straight into the keeper's arms, and the other one was a shot from Yates, which I think even I'd back Turner to save that. So it wasn't really with any venom or anything like that. It wasn't a particularly brilliant game, but that free kick at the end really was a chance where we could have worked the keeper. Obviously, we've seen in the press the very bizarre Athletic article which detailed all the attacking free kicks we've had this season. It worked out that we've shot from 2 of them all season, which is a joke in its own right. But we had a perfect opportunity to at least get a 3rd one in all competitions, and we do that. I mean, talk us through it. I mean, what a mess.
I mean, Danilo dropped the Elo and became just Dan, didn't he? Like, when you get a Brazilian and you think, all right, well, he must be good at free kicks. Absolutely crap. Like, just floated it and like went nowhere near the goal. Like, yeah, bitterly disappointed. When you've got someone like Andy Reid in your coaching staff and you're thinking, God, he must be giving them a few tips and pointers and whatever else. And I think we've been garbage at him since James Garner was at the club, haven't we? Really, like. He's the last one, I think, to have scored one. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think maybe during the Houghton era.
Yeah, it was against QPR. It was so 2020 was the last one, and 2021, wasn't
which
it?
is like an absolute crime against football and Forest, really, when we had the likes of Reedy and McGugan who scored for fun, really, from free kicks for us, and we completely lose a weapon in our arsenal, even from like dead ball situations where you're putting them into the box. We've not been great at them, have we, for a long time? So that is something that is a worry, because I look at pretty much every single team in the Premier League and even probably most of the teams in the Championship, and they've got someone who can take a dead ball, and that's quite worrying, really, in some respects. But I think when the highlight of the game is Mangala sending 2 people for a Twix, and that was literally about it, then you know it's a dead rubber. And I likened it to a lower mid-table Championship game. You would, if someone had turned that on and said, "Tell me which one's Premier League," I wouldn't have been able to tell you.
Can I just add that at the end, Nuno was absolutely fuming Gibbs White didn't take it. He stormed onto the pitch like a petulant child and just held his arms out at Gibbs White and was just like,
I quite like that from Nuno.
Yeah, Gibbs White should have took it. He come on, Gibbs White, and you could see the change in quality straight away when he come on, because he was playing in that free roam 10. He was going into the pockets, picking the ball up, making his tick. You could just see the quality difference when he come on.
I think to
I
add to them,
why I didn't take it. I really don't.
I think to add to them positives Reiss mentioned, I think Gibbs White coming back and getting 45 minutes into the legs, and I think being unscathed injury wise, but we do look stretched. Our squad looks tired. Like, I would have took Chris Wood off, because I said it in a tweet before. I was like, we actually do need to protect him at this moment in time.
The thing is, though, Nuno would have probably saw it as well. With him on the pitch, it's his best chance of winning. You know.
I admit that. But
yeah,
I thought, like, Aguilera would have come on at least.
I must give a mention. I thought our man of the match last night was on Balotelli. I thought he played really well.
I was going to say, actually, yeah. 2 other positives for the Gibbs White played for half the game, and on Balotelli, that block was brilliant, I have to say. So,
I mean, Nuno put his hands up to the away end at the end. I think he was that annoyed Gibbs White didn't take it. It reminded me of years ago when I think it was Javier Hernandez took a penalty for Man U and he missed it, and Van Gaal just looked at Ryan Giggs on the bench like, why isn't Rooney took it? And Giggs was just like, I don't know. I have no idea why Gibbs White didn't take that. And yeah, I mean, it was, I'm not sure what it was from Danilo, to be honest. That free kick summed up the game, unfortunately.
Well, that's all she wrote, pretty much, which is bizarre. We've covered it in about 10 minutes, but there was literally nothing to talk about, is there? Otherwise, I mean, it was talk about bad nights for the FA Cup up until the 89th minute of the City Spurs game, or Spurs City game. There was every game was going to be a draw and going to a replay. So, never mind. But we will. I think it's from the 5th of February, the week commencing the 5th of February. So that means we're going to have Arsenal, Bournemouth, and then replay. Games are coming thick and fast, but at least we'll have somebody back by that point, you think, with obviously Senegal have got Ivory Coast next. So that's at least 2 coming back.
We're going to be the Wednesday night as well, aren't we? Because we play Sunday. So I can't see them making us play Tuesday.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
So, yeah, or at least we'll have a few bodies back for some of these games anyway, at least. So,
yeah, we're late kick-off on the Saturday commencing as well against Newcastle, so it would definitely be the Wednesday night, won't it? So what's that? Is that the 7th? I think it is.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, 7th, yeah.
So, yeah, it might be a nice before. But but we'll see who we get in the cup.
Instead of 40-year-old virgin or something like
that. But anyway, we're going to talk about the transfer window, because it seems like Forest have finally woken up. Well, I say that, to be fair, it's been a widespread thing for the Premier League. I think I saw that, like, was it 45 million have been spent, and 25 of that was on one player from Genoa for Spurs. So it's been a very, very quiet window for Premier League clubs. But obviously because of PNS rules and whatever else. But it does seem as Forest are looking to make a bit of some activity towards the end. As I said, Marinakis would, because he loves the thrill of it. And it looks like there's been a few options, but Lee, it seems as if that, your prediction about getting a goalkeeper might have been false, because it looks like that's very much in the cards now. We've been linked from Romano to Galashi from RB Leipzig, obviously formerly of Liverpool and famously Hull as well, before he moved on to being a Champions League level goalkeeper for several years. And also Kasper Schmeichel today, which again tells me that we're looking for an experienced, possibly short-term fix to bail us out, and then reassess it again in the window in summer. Sorry. But those two links to those two players. I mean, I remember when Casper was linked in the summer, and we were sort of like really like, you know, we take it as a backup if we need him, but he's not going to be a first choice keeper for the year, surely. And here we are, 6 months down the line, having seen Matt Turner in goal for several months of those, and now it's suddenly like, oh great, get him in. So what do you make of those two links? And yeah, how are you feeling about the whole situation as a whole? I mean, obviously we know how important it is to get this resolved, really.
Yeah, I mean, they're not massively exciting links, are they? But like I say, we've seen bits and bobs on social media this morning, and they're nail on the head stuff because they're not overly exciting, but you'd get both of them in straight away. If we could sign both and ship the other two out, we probably would, wouldn't we? Let's face it. It's it's just mental every time we talk about the goalkeeper situation that we've gone from Henderson and Navas to having this pair. You've got one who appears to be a bit of a ghost and doesn't make a great deal of anything, and the other one whose kicking is worse than mine with two dodgy knees and having not played in goal for about 15 years. So um, yeah, it's mad. I actually don't think Schmeichel would be a bad short-term fix. I think his pedigree as an experienced keeper at this level would be useful for 6 months. I don't think he'd be particularly expensive. Knows the area. Obviously, there'll be some fans that struggle to get on board with him because he played for Leicester. But yeah, one thing we do know that Schmeichel possesses is unbelievable distribution. His kicking's always been class. So yeah, now I've said that, watch him come in and drop an absolute clanger in his first game or something. But yeah, I'd have Schmeichel. I confess I don't know much about the other guy. Like you say, he was a bit of a second fiddle at Liverpool. Went to Hull, played a little bit, and then all of a sudden he became a regular in the Champions League. So yeah, I mean, let's not read too much into the regular at the Champions League because that's one of the strings that we gave Vlachodimos when we signed him. So he'd be judged on what he could do. Obviously, I don't know much about him at the minute. So yeah, I'm all for getting a goalkeeper. I just think the reason I've said that I don't think we'll get one is because what I've said before. I just think we've spent too much already on goalkeepers, and we have more pressing concerns outfield with all the players looking absolutely knackered. So yeah, I'd welcome either of the two. To be fair, at this stage.
No, I'd agree with that. I mean, Galashi, it's weird because, like, obviously, like Reiss was saying, he's like prime 85 rated goalkeeper on FIFA. But no, to be fair to him, he's been one of the better keepers in the Bundesliga. We've generally shot pretty well there, I have to say, touch words. Like most of the time we made there, I think you look at Mangala, Taiwo, especially those two. Niakate came from obviously the Bundesliga as well. We've generally done pretty well out of that league. So fingers crossed that will remain the case.
Since we got to the Premier League, I don't think we've made a bad signing from the Bundesliga, have we? Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I don't think we've made a single bad one. Certainly, we've not made one where someone's come in and sat on the bench for 6 months and then been shipped on at a loss. So, yeah, I think all the Bundesliga signings have been pretty good.
Certainly made a mockery of the whole Bundesliga tax sort of narrative as well, isn't it? But Reiss, obviously, one of those positions that obviously we could be looking at and sticking with the Bundesliga is Giovanni Reina, who obviously that was the only real link, as you called in the last podcast, the only real link that we had. And obviously, him now being a George Mendes client, but although he has agreed terms with other George Mendes client clubs, with Gattuso at Marseille, for example. Sevilla have been in the mix as well, and I think there's another team involved too. But it does certainly seem as if the preference is Forest if we can get something sorted with Dortmund. How are you feeling about that link, Reina? I mean, obviously, again in the computer world, brilliant FM. That way, but,
is that how we're judging players?
No, it seems to be like one of those that obviously has a lot of ability, but also has maybe the other attitude issue as well.
Well, I think last time was probably the first game I really thought the balance of not having two wingers on the pitch was really killing us. I thought Hudson-Odoi was lively, frustrating but lively last night. Dominguez just had a bit of a stinker last night, just because at the end of the day he's not a right winger, is he? We was crying out for Elanga, and to be honest, I think if we had Elanga last night, I think we would have won the game, to be honest. Because I just kind of thought any sustained 10-minute period of turning the screw from us, I thought would have been enough to beat them. And it's just we just kind of just didn't have the depth and the options to really do that. I know, like Adam mentioned, bringing Aguilera on and that, but he's still pretty much a kid in terms of experience of playing in England. So, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, we've all said, haven't we need another winger. So Reina would fit that bill. whether that's a short-term fix on loan and then reassess in the summer depending on what level we're at. I'm just looking at his stats now. I mean, last season he seemed to have quite a good season. He played 22 games here and he got 7 goals, 2 assists, which is nearly 1 in 2 with a goal contribution. I mean, this season, I'm not sure. It says 10 appearances, but there seem to have been dribs and drabs, really, made
he's
sub
averaged,
appearances.
I think it's
Yeah,
26 minutes. I think I've seen his average
yeah,
assist per game.
and he's
One
not
start.
produced. He's not produced anything this season. But I mean, he's 21, so if it's a short-term option, it gives us another option. Because we're trying to do this net zero window, apparently, aren't we? So it would give us definitely another option, because we definitely do need that. So yeah, if it happens, we'll see. Obviously, I've seen Marseille are also wanting him, and I think Gattuso is also a Mendes client, isn't he? So
Yeah.
it's one of them, really. It'd be down to the player, wouldn't it? Does he want to come and play in the Premier League? I mean, are Marseille still in Europe? Did they drop into the Conference League, maybe? Because it was in Brighton's group, weren't
I
they?
think they're still in Europe.
still
Yeah,
in Europe,
I think
still in
they went
Europa.
through instead of Ajax. I might be wrong though. But yeah,
So yeah, we'll kind of have to see. So they're in Europa League playoffs against Shakhtar.
that's it, yeah.
So it's kind of one of them. I guess it'd be down to the player, wouldn't it? Really, what he wants to do.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll see.
I think I'd be interested. I think the Premier League pool would probably be a bit more because
Well, we definitely need a winger. But I mean, last
Yeah.
night showed that so much. I mean, Dominguez was on a card and then got hooked at half time.
Yeah.
I
think also-
Rainer can come home and visit some family in Sunderland.
yeah,
with his dad.
Claudio. Yeah,
played for-
I mean, the only thing for me with
played for
Rainer is
City as well,
obviously
didn't
he can play number 10 too, which is good.
he?
But it's just what comes with it. Like, because obviously he's the American star boy. We have all their fans that don't understand football. I'm sorry, they don't. Like,
wow.
the ones that sort of tell you that Turner's got a certain percentile, even though if you watch him with your eyes, you realise he's one of the worst keepers in the Premier League. And they'll tell you that, it'll just, much like Leeds last season with McKennie and Adams, I can see that going pretty toxic pretty quickly. So there's a sideshow that comes with it I'm not overly enamoured by, but he is a good player. So
we just need a winger of decent quality, don't we? Because, like I say, we're playing without a winger on one side at the minute, and it's stifling us, to be honest.
There's the other. I don't know if anyone's heard the story about Rainer's dad texting Dortmund's manager when he wasn't getting picked in the team as well.
It's the same with the US national team as well. Like pulling strings there, like wondering why isn't so that this influence isn't going to be ideal. So we'll have to see on that front. But and lastly, Adam, for the big links is Carlos Forbes, formerly known as Carlos Borges, who we wanted in the summer from Manchester City, along with West Ham and Ajax. Obviously, he chose the latter in the end, and they've had a pretty torrid time, although they're back in European contention now. That would be quite an exciting link because he can play as a winger or as a striker, and in terms of profile, seems a very pacey forward. So, would you welcome him to the ranks if we got him over the line?
Yeah, I wanted him in the summer purely for what I've seen of clips of him. Obviously, not watched him like loads and loads, but you see he's got raw pace. He's skillful. I know he's scored loads of goals, be it at like lower level football, of under 23s and under 18s, but the goalposts don't move very often, and pace is pace at the end of the day. If you're fast, then that's always going to help. And I like that he's left-footed, which will give us more balance. Means he could play as an inside forward on the right, but can easily play on the left as a natural left-footed winger, and kind of gives us that competition. And I think I've watched a video on him from someone who's watched Ajax a lot more and said he's kind of struggled because the team struggled. So he's like been in and out of the team a bit much, which is kind of not like stunted his development as such, but kind of maybe not suited to the expectations and everything of a club like Ajax in the Eredivisie, where like PSV are absolutely romping it at the moment. So that's probably not helped. Whereas he's going to come to a club like Forest, where the expectations are still high. Don't get me wrong, but maybe less so. And we've got a lot of players of a similar age and a similar ilk, kind of trying to find their way in the senior game. So I think it kind of suits all parties. I would like there to be an option to buy as well for him, because I do think that would be really beneficial to us, but it's whether Ajax see it that way, whereas they obviously, like you say, they're going back into Europe. Maybe they think like next summer where he can then be a more first teamer for them. They might not let us have that option. So, but yeah, I'd be excited for that one.
Definitely, yeah, it does seem quite exciting. I mean, like it'd also give Nuno some much needed like variety as well, because we could go to teams with like double pace down the wings with him and Alanga, for example, or if you want to mix and match. It also like means as well that if you're quite liking having one rapid and one not as quick but maybe a bit more technical, you can sort of just bring straight swap Alanga for.
I think the counter attack. The counter attack for Nuno is then even more deadly, isn't it? Like Borges, Alanga on a side, Gibbs White, and then you've got when a one-use fit. I mean, that's 4 real pacey players. Because I've really wanted Callum Hudson-Odoi to do well this season, but you can just tell he either doesn't trust his body or he's just low on confidence. Like last night, he should score that goal really on his left foot. He should definitely hit the target at least, and you could just see like. I don't know, he's like hesitating a little bit to take a man on. Last week, I thought that cross for Chris Wood was absolutely, you said it yourself, it's a dream for a striker. And I kind of thought that'd give him the confidence. But last night, he just seemed a bit hesitant to give it a go. You're in a cup game, man. Like, don't worry about making a mistake.
He was the only one willing to go past the halfway line, to be fair to him.
The funny thing was, last week, after that cross, as soon as we equalised, he actually got the ball pretty much straight after again. And he ran at full flight at him. And then nothing, and then it just seems just something not quite there with Hudson-Odoi. Like
that left side's a problem for me personally. I just disconnect between him and what's around. He always looked like at Brentford he wanted an overlap and never got it.
Well, Toffolo's got to play against Arsenal because I'm guessing Tavares can't play.
Thank the Lord. It's not like a loss, is it? Like,
I mean, him last night, it was.
I just
thought of your analogy with Konchesky because he actually played one pass in the first half to Tavares, which was absolutely incredible. Completely cut their team open, and I think Yates pinged it to Montiel, and where Montiel should have shot, and he tried to cut in. And then there was like a couple of times as well where he literally dropped it on his foot, the touch, and was incredible. But then other times it looked like he was, for those who've seen Phoenix Nights, when Spencer's on stage singing with them boots on and he falls off the stage. That's like, so it's just so unorthodox. And I stick with like my comment from last week. You can see he's got ability. He's just doing it more times often than not. But back to Hudson-Odoi, I just get the feeling them injuries have just taken the toll a little bit. And it's just that yard of pace lacking and just to push himself. Because again, he's another one who's clearly got ability. It's just, they're all just buzzwords. You've got to unlock that ability, you know what I mean, and start really producing. I mean, like Adam said, the cross for Wood was an absolute dream. I mean, that was De Bruyne actually wanted that cross right on the money. It's just, but we've said, haven't we? We've kind of got to give him a run of games, and at the end of the day, he's only winger at the minute, so he's going to play. But
I think that helps.
I think the good thing is he is getting a run of games and he's coming through them unscathed, but. Is he getting them through unscathed because he's not pushing himself to the limit? I don't know.
I mean, I think that's really harsh. I think, like, if you look at that's why I'm just he took a massive bang there because of obviously the ice skating rink.
It might go for the fact as well. It come to us late in the window, didn't it? I always think it's his ideal.
No pre-season, is he?
Yeah, it's ideal to have that. I mean, we were signing players really late in the window, wasn't it? I mean, to me, I can see some players aren't up to Premier League speed at times. I'd maybe Sangare into that. I mean, Nuno even said that, didn't he? Because they had that virus, etc. So it's just the Premier League's so quick nowadays. You can kind of see if players are just a little bit short on fitness, etc. And if they're being, put in because basically, it's needs much, it kind of tells at times. But we'll see.
Just before we hop on to our Arsenal preview, I'm going to read off some slept on it thoughts. I completely forgot, my bad. So we'll hop into those now.
Red side of the Trent. Slept on it thoughts.
Adam was the one who took charge of the social post last night because
I'm sorry about that.
So fed up with it that he asked for he wants to know what people's favourite biscuit was.
Horror show.
Horror show. It was only a 0-0 draw. It wasn't like we got tanked.
Reading that, I thought it was been deep 3-0.
We'll be saying horror show on Tuesday, probably.
It was an over the top reaction. I do apologise.
Apologise to the listeners.
Sorry,
Yeah, but
listeners.
first comment from Tom Newton says, I wouldn't say it was a horror show as we didn't get beat, but it wasn't a spectacle either. Neither side did enough to be deserving of the win. With a lack of players to choose from, plus of travelling recently, some players need a rest. Obviously, we can't due to injuries and AFCON. BCP says players that they weren't even interested. I hope they are on Tuesday versus Arsenal. Otherwise, it's going to be a painful night. And the rest of it just about biscuits. I mean, Premier Elliot's, but my favourite biscuits is high on his legs. That's not very nice to Elliot, but very funny all the same. Gary Baldy Nut says slow labelling, just generally poor. Can tell 5 of the first 11 are missing. Some players are lucky they can't be dropped out of the squad completely off the back of that, to be honest. I think that's probably a fair point, actually. Ricky Treasury says poor in the ball in all departments, afraid to make anything work in attacking sense when in possession of the ball. We won't need any points off to get relegated. They'll do it themselves on that show. We can send a glass eye to sleep. Simon Walker said,
It is FA Cup though, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
against West Ham, like people have made a good point. West Ham went there and lost, and they're 6th in the Premier League. So
equally West Ham didn't really, like you said, it was uninspired.
I get what you're saying, but it wasn't. We've got to realise we're not going to rock up there when at home in front of a sellout and just absolutely roll them over. It was always going to be a tough game, you know what I mean? So as poor as we played, it was never going to be a rollover. Come on.
Based on these reactions so far, it's a good job no one's overreacting as usual.
Simon Morgan said, didn't lose, didn't concede, but still in the draw, and it means another game where supporters get a chance to see it at City Ground, some for the first time. There you go, it's a positive one. You need to be trusts, and then we'll go through this business. Obviously, like most people correctly have said Garibaldi, obviously very in touch. Dark chocolate hobnobs, dark chocolate digestives, custard creams never go wrong, apparently, Adam. I hope this is the sort of market research you wanted from Forest fans.
I did.
Never again are we letting you post after the game.
I wanted more variation. Where's like the Foxes, Viennese and all that? Oh, come on, come on, guys.
Adam and Atwell in prison after last
night. I hope instead of player performances, we're all going to go around and get to say what our favourite biscuit is after this. By the way,
God, absolutely not. We're going to move on to the Premier League again. Enough of this FA Cup. We're going to bring. Let's put him over here. There you go. Welcome, Alex. So Alex is Arsenal through and through. He follows the guy on home and away and over land and sea. So thank you again for coming on. Obviously, he came on for the preview last year. Obviously, not quite to a full house, but we're all here now. So we'll start with Arsenal's current form, I suppose, in that it's been a bit haphazard. Obviously, that seems to be amended with the 5-0 win over Palace. But how have you found things? Are you still confident of a title charge? Do you think now it's top 4's the aim, or just finishing up Spurs? How are you sort of feeling about things at present?
I think the break came at the right time for us, really. Obviously, it was a very difficult after we played Liverpool at Anfield, got the draw. Everyone thought, and myself included, thought, well, that's a result that probably galvanises. Obviously, it put us top at the time, or kept us top rather. And everyone thought, we've got Fulham and West Ham next 2 games where we should really kick on. And obviously, it didn't happen. Then I think the performances rather than the results themselves were a bit concerning because it kind of felt like we were doing the same thing over and over again. Definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, which is effectively what we've been doing. So the break, and we lost to Liverpool in the Cup. The break came at the right time for us. The group went to Dubai. It appears that Partey might be back on Tuesday. Timber will be back in training very soon. We've had players come back at the right time. So maybe I think it's hard to judge, really, I'd say, because Palace were awful the other day, like probably worse than we've played Sheffield United this season. So it's hard to judge whether that was a season-changing performance or whether it was just the fact that Palace were a lot worse than most teams will play this season. So it's kind of, I think obviously Tuesday night is probably a bigger indicator of where we are actually.
That's fine. I guess so we'll sort of take it in a round table to ask questions. I'll let who wants to go first? It's a key one. Yeah, lead in.
Right. I've asked a few Arsenal fans this in the build-up to the game. And I just find it a really curious one because I think there's only probably Forest fans on social media that kind of go more OTT than Arsenal fans. And I was just wondering, obviously, because you're in a title race once again, I was just wondering whether you'd consider not winning the title a failure. A couple of us have said no because it's about establishing in the Champions League, that sort of stuff. But I just wondered what your take on was it in terms of actually winning the title. Because obviously City don't feel quite as dominant this season. I just wondered if you'd consider it a failure if you didn't win the title this year.
It's a bit of a hard. I wouldn't consider not winning the title a failure. For me personally, last season was a bigger failure because we were five points clear. Obviously 8 at certain times as well, with bigger, in January, in March, in April as well. So that for me is a failure non-stop this season. I think a lot of people probably didn't expect us to be, maybe in a title race by, again, top of Christmas, for example, expect us to maybe be where we are 5 points off in January. So I would say it's kind of expected. I'd say the bigger failure for me would be, the FA Cup, doing what we've done there, and the League Cup, because it's going to be 4 years since we've last won a trophy. The manager spent a lot of money, or the club have, and the club have backed him. So in the end, it will probably look like a failure because, again, we've been in a position where we should have gone on to do it, or at least do better in certain games, i.e. Fulham and West Ham. There's a long way to go still, obviously. But for me, I would say no this season. Not this season, no.
You kind of fell into the media trap, Alex, of a couple of years ago when there was banging on to Chelsea about needing a number 9. So you spent a lot of money on. They obviously went and got a number 9 in Lukaku, and yeah, that worked out well for them. But you obviously spent a lot of money in the summer on Kai Havertz. Do you think that was a mistake, spending all that money on him rather than a proper number 9, or do you think Jesus is capable of scoring the goals that you need?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, actually. I think Jesus himself will know he's not a natural number 9 in terms of the out and out the numbers wise for goals that we, a lot of top teams will need to push on for major honours. But I love him as a player. I think he brings a lot of players into play. I think he has a lot of good attributes that benefit the team as a whole, rather than just being a goal scorer. But with the Havertz question, I would say I don't want to say it's a waste of money, because I think he has done good things. Obviously, the Brentford away last-minute winner, stuff like that. He's had good games. Brighton, he played really well. Longs in the Champions League as well. Obviously, it's a lot of money. I do think it could have been spent better elsewhere on some. I look at like teams like West Ham, who bought Kudus. Aston Villa bought Diaby for under 65 million each, and I'm thinking, well, that we lost Xhaka, who was a mobile midfield player who was getting into the box late. Was a lot better than Kai Havertz, and we haven't really replaced him with a player who is able to replicate the output. Whereas we could have gone for someone like Kudus or Diaby and had it spent better in terms of how many goals and assists a certain player could get.
Alex, good to see you again from last season. I just wanted to ask about the goalkeeping situation, because that is a hot topic this year. What have you made of that farce? And do you think this sees the end of Aaron Ramsdale? Do you think he's going to leave in the summer? And David Raya get that move's pretty much going to happen, isn't it? But would you say it was worth that risk rather than spending elsewhere, like the striker situation, really?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think Ramsdale did anything overly, it wasn't anything major that he should have been dropped for. I think Raya, for me, is a better player on the ball. You even saw the goal against last week that Trossard scored. He caught the ball and he distributed it very quickly. Ramsdale, I don't think I've ever seen him do that for Arsenal. It certainly feels like he wouldn't be able to do that. He wouldn't think that quickly. So I guess it does have its benefits in our offensive output. But I just feel sad, really, because he was so good for us at certain points. There have been issues, even the back end of last season. I remember Southampton at home was one which really, I think a lot of fans were really quite disappointed with him. So I can see why, but I do find it a bit bizarre because no one seems to know why he was dropped, or there's no sort of explanation from the manager. He was always kind of deferring, trying to avoid the answer to the question when he was asked about it. It's kind of a weird one, really, because no one seems to know what's gone on, if anything has gone on. So it's kind of a weird one, but I think Raya's a better goalkeeper for sure. Yeah.
Obviously, your midfield has changed. Obviously, like Zaka's come out, but Declan Rice has come in, and it's been, by all accounts, I think the fact that everyone's sort of not talking about his price tag suggests just how good he's been. because, as we all know, if you're terrible, that's the stick you get beaten with. Oh, we cost X much, but no one mentions Declan Rice's fee anymore. How have you found him at Arsenal, and like how is his impact and his development so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of fans were quite happy when we were able to pull off a transfer that size. Really, in terms of you'd have thought, especially when Manchester City came in, you think, oh, Arsenal are going to go to 100 million, and it's quite a surprise to have done that. And the impacts, just I think around the club, mentally that what it shows that we can do and what we've been able to do, first and foremost, was quite a big impact. I mean, he's so versatile in that midfield area. He can play as a 6 or an 8. He's a very, very, very good player, and probably in my opinion, the best we've had since Patrick Vieira. So it's just a delight to watch him every week. He's by far, and he's always like an 8 out of 10. Occasionally, he will have an even better game than that. But just to be able to watch him, week in, week out, and just what he's able to do, he's a leader already, and probably a future captain as well.
I've got one more question before you go into any predictions or anything. So, when we had you on last season, Alex, Arsenal had pretty much blown the title, bottled it, whatever you want to call it, and we was in the siege mentality of trying to stay up. And I'm sure you would even probably admit that the City ground was pretty rocking last season in that game. And even though only scored possibly one of the luckiest goals they scored last season, in terms of, I can't remember who tackled it onto him, but what do you think are the major differences this time? Because obviously it's a different period of the season. We might get charged. The last two, we lost our last Premier League game, but our last home game was against Man United, where it was a ruckus atmosphere again, and we beat them. I'd say even though it was 2-1, we beat them pretty comfortably, in all honesty. But what are you anticipating going into the fixture on probably a cold Tuesday night at the City ground?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think for us, since Nuno came in, obviously it's been very different, a lot harder to beat. Obviously, I know a lot of people had quite strong affiliations to Steve Cooper, but things have been a lot different since Nuno's come in. The win at Newcastle, beating Man United. So they're the two games I'm going to look at and compare, whether how difficult it's going to be, rather than looking at. I didn't watch the game last night, but I can tell by the reaction it was obviously not the best, and certainly against Blackpool as well, that was made a lot more difficult than it should be. So I'm going to compare it to Manchester United. That was a really good performance. It's going to be very difficult. I mean, Manchester United are obviously a lot worse than us at this moment in time, but I think it's going to be a very difficult game, just atmosphere wise. Even last season, I expected us to win that. I think I said 2-1 at the time to us, but it's going to be very, very difficult. The atmosphere, Arsenal coming to town, it's going to be the same sort of atmosphere as if Man United come there. It's one of those games that you want to win as a Forest supporter. And you've got a lot of good players as well. I spoke to Chris a lot about it. There's a lot of talent in that team who can get at our weaknesses for sure.
Just last one from me, mate, and it's just basically you're in two competitions still, so it's just two predictions. Who's going to win the Premier League? Who's going to win the Champions League?
Premier League, Liverpool.
And this is with your head, not your heart.
Manchester City.
Okay, fair enough.
I suppose I have got one more actually. I've got to ask you, how much did you laugh when we agreed to pay 10 million for Matt Turner?
Yeah, I think me and Chris had many conversations about this. I think a lot. He didn't really play that much for us. In all honesty, it was a weird transfer because he came from America and I think he was 28 at the time. It was a really weird sort of signing. When he did play, you could see why he doesn't play, without trying to be too disrespectful to him. But obviously, you've seen he's been playing as your number one, and even the goal Rashford scored against Man United, it was like just a complete head loss. So, yeah, in answer to your question, very surprised, and 10 million is a great outlay for us, really.
That'll rankle for a long, long time. But moving on to the game, you're heading up, aren't you? I think you're making the way up, or I mean, obviously you were saying you're quite worried, weren't you, that your last two visits gone the exact same way of a 1-0 home win. But what are you thinking for this time around? I'm not so sure it will be the case this time. We've got a lot of players out, and it looks like Arsenal got a few back. So
I think it's going to. I mean, I hope it's different. You really never know, because I thought it was going to be different last season to the FA Cup game. we were even worse in that, I think, than we were the season before. I think we're a lot more fresh this time round. We've obviously not played for 10 days when we come round. We have Saka back. Obviously I say Saka back, but Saka back to a level where he isn't playing every 3 days and being run into the ground. We're going to have Partey back as well, and I think everyone's. I do think we should win this game. Obviously, I think mainly as well because the amount of players that you've got out injured and at the AFCON. But I think we can't go into it thinking like that though, because that's it'll be the same result as last season and the season before.
And if we could get a prediction from you,
2-1, awesome.
Same as last year. Okay, cool. So suppose we better go through our predictions actually. So Lee, I'll start with you. What are you thinking for the game in terms of predictions? I've just seen as well. It's Morgan Gibbs White's birthday as well. So happy birthday to him. I'm sure his present was. His ideal present was a replay of Bristol City, but anyway.
Oh, Danilo obviously didn't know it was his birthday, otherwise he might have let him take that free kick at the end. But I agree with everything Alex has just said, to be honest. I think I don't want to take anything away from our 1-0 win last season, but I think there was lots of different factors. I think Arsenal were kind of playing like a team that knew they'd kind of, for want of a better expression, bottled the title perhaps. It was the end of the season. I think they were kind of spent a little bit. So it's going to be completely different. Arsenal are going to be refreshed, ready on the back of a 5-0 win. You know me, I never like predicting defeats, especially when, we do typically score in every game under Nuno. Our last home game with Man United. But I do probably think we'll be on the wrong end of a narrow defeat. I seem to be predicting this scoreline every single week, to be fair, but I'm going to go for a 3-2 defeat.
It's probably been our most common scoreline, to be fair, so it's not a terrible shout. Reiss, how about you?
Can I just ask Alex one more question, if that's okay?
Of course you can, yeah.
So you mentioned, Alex, about your weaknesses and obviously us having good players. I mean, what players from us worry you, and how could we get at you? Where's the weaknesses for you? What you think we could get at?
The one for the most common one I can think of is Zinchenko. If you get at him,
so we need a Langer back then.
He's a fantastic individual footballer, but away in a game like this, it's a recipe for disaster. Especially if you put someone like Callum Hudson-Odoi on him or something, who, by the way, is one player. In answer to your other question, that I would say is one of your most dangerous assets. Obviously, you've got a lot more. You've got a lot of players out. And I think Chris Wood, since Nuno's coming, I really liking Chris Wood actually, really come to the front a little bit. And the game against Blackpool as well, I thought he played very well.
I think he could be the answer to your number 9 problems, Chris Wood. What do you reckon to that? Prediction, yeah, so we need a Langer back on the back of that then, don't we? Because he'd be against Zinchenko. We're massively missing a Langer at the minute because we're playing Nico Dominguez out there, who isn't a winger at all.
I like him. Very good player.
Yeah, he is a very tidy footballer. I guess it depends a lot on if Langer is back for me with my prediction. I think if he is back, I think obviously it's going to be bloody tough because Arsenal are a very good side, but it's probably a game where on the counter-attack we can have some joy. If he isn't back and going on what I've seen last night, then it could be a tough night. But let's sit on the fence and I'll go for a 1-1 draw.
Adam?
Well, Mikel Arteta tried to take the mickey out of us last season by playing Thomas Partey at right back and tried to play as an inverted midfielder, and that absolutely fell flat on its face. So
I wonder if it grates on him, the 2 results at ours. He's had 2 1-0s, hasn't he, in both?
I reckon it definitely does. Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping for another master disaster class of a tactical nightmare from Mikel, and we win. I mean, I expect us to be right up for the game, regardless if we've got a Langer back or not. I truly believe that, and hopefully he is, because that's it's something for Mikel to kind of worry about. I think it will be on us to kind of take it to Arsenal, but also be wise to them and keeping the ball, and then obviously us trying to hit them on the counter attack. And I think we can definitely get a result. We seem to be a tough place for Arsenal to come in the past, and I think we can maybe keep that up. And I actually think we'll beat you 2-1. That's what I'm going to go for. Chris Wood double.
Take that for fantasy football, to be fair. I I don't know. I saw a tweet last night. I think we also Reiss, you put it in the chat, didn't you? That we seem to have this unnerving and unnatural ability to just raise our level to whoever we're playing against. So if we're playing against Blackpool or Bristol City, it just plummets. If we're playing against Newcastle, Man United, it just pings up, and suddenly we turn into this tour de force. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see us raise a game again. The thing for me is legs. I mean, I just don't. I look at that team like we were saying earlier. It's a tired team. We've got square pegs in round holes. I don't think you can get away with that against the elite sides. If Alanga's back, I think we've got a good chance. If he's not, it could be quite a long night. I would suspect that our goalkeeper will give his former club a gift at some stage in one way or another. I think that's pretty much a formality. Unless
How
we
long
get...
has Alanga been out for?
It was a United game, wasn't it? He came off and he hasn't seen him
not
since.
Not really been mentioned, to be honest.
He did the usual thing that Forest players tend to do, look absolutely fine when he's walking around the pitch and banging his chest, and then all of a sudden when the adrenaline wears off, he's got a life-changing injury. It's mental.
Yeah, needs amputation or something and can't play again, like as we've seen so often. But I'm gonna sit on the fence as well. I'm gonna go for a 2-2 draw. I think that just because of the way we are, I think we average 2 goals a game in the Prem since Nuno's been in, which is something I didn't think we'd be saying at all, but here we are. But I don't think defensively we have enough. Again, it'll probably be same back four, won't it? Well, Tavares can't play, actually that's a boost. So it'll be Toffolo at left back, which at least makes us a bit more steady.
The dog botherer can't play. What a shame.
How awful. I don't know, honestly. I mean, actually, we'll ask you about that very quickly, Alex. I mean, surely it makes more sense for all parties, it seems, if he just went back and then was sold to Marseille. Obviously, that can't happen now. They just bought another left back. But I mean, how have you found that situation? Because that seemed pretty cut and shut to me.
Yeah, he's a strange footballer because he'd done some really good things when he came in. To be fair, he was raw, but he looked actually like
literally what we've been saying,
like a good player. And then like there's certain games. I remember being at Chelsea away, we won 4-2. There was a moment in the game where the ball had fallen. It was a second ball had fallen to him in the box. He's left-footed, obviously, as you know, he's a left back. But it came to him right foot and just shanked it. No, there's nothing. I don't think there's just not a player. There's not a footballing side in his brain where. He has composure or anything like that. But obviously, like for you, he started okay, and it's just gone south. And it was the same for us, really. I don't think we can actually recall him. I think you have to terminate it. And as you said, I saw Marseille have bought a left back this morning. So I don't know how that's going to go down.
To be fair, which I know Christian said it's best for all parties, then, but it seems to me Nuno obviously fancies him because he's playing. He's playing ahead of Toffolo.
That's concerning in its own right.
Yeah, most fans would say Toffolo's steady, gives 100%, and he's playing ahead of him. And I generally think if he was our player permanent, he'd start again on Tuesday night. The concern with me for Tavares is, to be fair, I'm not defending him here, but he's in the same with Montiel, and he's not escaped criticism. But these guys are wing backs and they're playing in the back four, so they just. Like last night, Montiel was bombing forward and he's just leaving his defensive responsibilities. And they had so much space on the wings at time. And when they're playing in the back four, when the wing backs, that's when you get exposed for me, when you've just got wing backs playing in the back four. I think Tavares and Montiel are the back five players.
To be fair, Montiel, he has largely played in the back for his career. That's what I will say for him. Whereas Tavares was signed explicitly to be in a five.
This league, like last night, he was bombing forward, Montiel, and he kept leaving loads of space in behind. And no wonder Dominguez and Yates, who were on that side, both got carded because they was chasing people back down the right flank and had to pull them down because they was getting away. So, interesting one.
Well, we'll have to certainly see on that front. But anyway, thank you for coming on, Alex. Much appreciated.
No problem.
And thank you.
Matt Jones can have a worldie.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Thank you to all 54 people who are currently watching us at the minute for taking time out your Saturday morning, to 55 now, to watch us talk about Forest being in the next round of the FA Cup, although with a bit of an asterisk next to our name, as we have to take on Bristol City once more at City grounds. Obviously we'll be back after the Arsenal game. We'll have a debrief after that. And we'll see you then. Fingers crossed it's with more positivity, and I'm sure there'll probably be at least one signing by that point. Knowing Forest, probably about 15. So until then, come on, you Reds.